Hey, preschool, kindergarten, first graders. You won't have much of me anymore. I have this week's video for you, and then as soon as that's over, we're going to turn it over to your guests for the week, Miss Casey and her two amazing helpers, Reagan and Emerson. And they're going to finish off with a prayer, and then I hope you join us next week to continue on with Abraham's story. All right, see you then.
Hi friends, I'm Samuel. Come wander with me. We're going on a journey of faith together. First, I want to introduce you to Abraham and Sarah, two very important people in our story today. Abraham and Sarah went on a long journey of faith with God. So what is faith? Faith is believing in God's presence and hope. Sometimes that can be really hard, but it's a gift to be with God. Abraham and Sarah's story shows us what it can look like to have faith in God's promises and to go on a journey with God. In this part of the story, Abraham hears God's voice and instructs him to leave all that he knows and go to a different land. Wow, I wonder how he felt. That sounds really scary to me. Last year, our parents told us that we had to move. I was so sad because I was leaving all of my friends. My mom kept reminding me that even though it was hard, I could make new friends where I was going. I decided to trust her. It helped things seem a little less scary. I wonder if Abraham felt kind of like how I did. Even though it might have been hard, Abraham and Sarah trusted God and decided to go. Abraham and Sarah left their home and had faith to go with God. God gave them some direction, but they didn't know exactly what was going to happen. Sometimes we just have to trust God's presence and listen to God's voice. We need to have faith that God is leading us to a place that is good. Abraham and Sarah's faith helped them to believe that God would be with them every step of the way. They had faith that they were going somewhere good, even though they were leaving. Do you know what's really awesome? God is with us every step too. God is with us wherever our journey takes us. Sometimes that's really awesome and fun, and sometimes it's through scary things. In both the good and the hard times, God is there. Now, it's time for you to wonder.
Hi, I'm Casey.
Hi, I'm Reagan. Hi, I'm Emerson.
Today we're here to bring you your Sunday school lesson, and today we're talking about Abraham and Sarah. Our big focus in this lesson is going to be about faith and hope in God's promises. So what do you guys know? What does faith mean?
Like believe.
Believe?
Yeah.
What else? What about hope? When you have hope, what does that mean? Like you're hopeful for something.
That means you're
like waiting for it to happen,
Yeah.
but you think it's going to happen, right?
Mhm.
Like it's more likely to happen because you have hope, like that you believe it's going to happen, right? So in our story today, we're talking about two people named Abraham and Sarah. Can you guys say that? Abraham and Sarah. And they were some people that followed God and listened to God's promises. So God spoke to Abraham and promised him many wonderful things, including land and lots of descendants, which at the time kind of seemed crazy because Abraham and Sarah were older. So they were past the age of having babies. They really were kind of at that age that you think about maybe grandparents, right? Where their babies would be having babies, right? Okay, so like you guys might have grandparents, right? If you think about them, would it be kind of strange if your grandma was pregnant and then she had a new baby, right? Would that seem kind of weird?
I have something to say. Abraham was 98 and Sarah was 101.
That's right.
100.
Right. Okay. So definitely getting up there in years. So in our story, starting today and then in the next lessons, we're going to follow Abraham and Sarah through their journey and their faith in believing that God would keep his promises. So their journey took them far away from their home. So they used to live in a place that was called Haran. Can you say that?
Haran.
And with their family.
That kind of sounds like parrot.
Right.
It's Haran.
Right. And they were happy there. You know, they were living a good life, but God had promised them that if they left where they were at and went to a different place, then he would provide them with the land and the descendants and the fulfillment that he had promised to Abraham. And so Abraham decided that they should follow what God said, because when they were living in Haran, they were sad because they didn't have any children, right? And they were up in years, and they definitely wanted to have children, and they wanted to have many descendants. So God promised Abraham 3 things. Number 1, God promised that he would provide Abraham with new land. Number 2, God would give Abraham many descendants. And number 3, Abraham's family would be a blessing to other people. Now, really, Abraham and Sarah would have wondered, how is it possible that God could provide these things, especially since they were up in years and in age? Okay, and our story today comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 21, verses 1 through 9. Okay, and so we'll have our story here. It's called Abraham and Sarah. God loved Abraham, and Abraham loved God. God said to Abraham, "Go where I send you, and I will bless you." Abraham did what God told him to do. Abraham took his wife, Sarah, and his nephew, Lot. They packed up all of their things and went where God led them. When they arrived in Canaan, God said, "I will give you this land. I will give you a big family, and they will love me and worship me. I will be with you. I will bless you, and others will see that you love me." All right, so down here it says, I wonder, what does it feel like to move to a new place? What do you think it was like for those guys to move to a new place?
Sad because you don't get to see any of your friends.
Maybe the people that used to live in the place where you were at before.
Yeah.
How about a long journey, right? Okay, so in these pictures you can see, did they take a car when they traveled to where they were going?
No, they had to take donkeys and horses.
Yeah, can you imagine riding on a donkey or a horse and packing up everything that you have and putting it on a donkey or a horse and moving to a new place? That'd be kind of scary, wouldn't it?
Back in the old days. Now we have cars.
That's right.
That are way longer.
Well, and they get us places faster. It would have taken them a long time to get to where they were going, right?
And they also didn't have anywhere to sleep, so they had to keep on going.
Right. So in one of the pages that will be attached to this video, it has a picture of a suitcase and it says "on a journey." And so an activity that you guys could do is, in those suitcases, you could either write it or you could draw pictures of what you might take with you on a journey if you were going on this long journey. So what were some of the things that you think that Abraham and Sarah and Lot had to pack with them when they went on this long journey? Emma?
Food for the animals.
Food for the animals, because the animals were providing them transportation, and the animals were what they raised and how they had their living. They were like farmers, right? Okay, Reagan, what do you think?
Maybe like clothes or like
Food and water.
For themselves too, and clothes to
Food
keep
and
warm
water.
or protect them from the sun, right?
Food and water.
Yes. And then they also slept in tents, so they had to bring their shelter with them, right? So like their bedding, all that kind of stuff, and things to keep them safe.
Oh.
So you guys in that suitcase could think about what you might take with you on a journey today, which might be a little bit different than what Abraham and Sarah took on their journey with them, right? Because if we were going someplace, we probably wouldn't really bring our house with us, right? Except maybe if you're going camping, you bring a tent with, right? If you're going to
Or
sleep in
maybe
a tent.
camper.
Or a camper too. Okay, very good. All right, so another craft that you could do to kind of help remind you of this story is to make a compass that looks like this, okay? So for this craft, what you're gonna need is a plate. I just used a small paper plate like this, okay? You're gonna need a little brad that looks like this, okay? Or a fastener sometimes. These are the things that then they open up on the back like this and it sticks out, right? Okay? Just a small piece of paper. I just have a little scrap of construction paper, and then I just used a marker, okay? So a compass is something that tells us what direction we're going. And it's something we use if we're maybe out in the wilderness. Now, how do we find out where we're going if right now in modern times, right? If I need to know where I'm going, what am I going to do?
Look it up.
Look it up in what?
Google Maps.
Google Maps, probably, right? You've probably seen your parents look it up on their phone or possibly put the navigation in the car, and that tells us where we're going. But back, of course, in Abraham and Lot and Sarah's days, we didn't have something like that. They may not have even had like a compass, but eventually then we had a compass, and the compass tells us what direction is north. And that way, then we know what directions the other. So if I'm walking one direction and it tells me that north is behind me, then I know the direction that I am walking is east, okay? So if you have never made a compass before, you may not know how the directions are oriented, but the kiddos have a good way to remember that. Emmer, how do you remember that?
Never eat sour watermelon.
Or Reagan, how do you remember that?
Never eat soggy waffles.
Right, so north, east, south, west, right? So north and south are opposite each other, and then east and west are opposite each other. Okay?
East and west make wee.
That's right. And so what you're going to do is just cut a little piece, right? Write your north, east, south, and west, and then put your little brad in the middle, and then that will spin, and you can have your compass then, which is going to tell you which direction you are walking. So you could play a game with that. Maybe you could use a car and pretend like your car was going on a journey. Of course, back when Abraham and Sarah went on their journey, they were riding on camels. But maybe you could pretend that they were riding in a car and they were going on their journey from Haran to Canaan to their promised land.
If you have a box, you could make a car out of a box and then fake drive it.
You could, exactly.
That's what I do with boxes.
Very good. All right, let's go ahead and have a prayer, okay? Now, when we do our prayer here at the end, I want you guys to close your eyes and imagine that you're on a path in the desert like Abraham and Sarah were, okay? So think about how it's hot and it's sandy, the wind might be blowing and it's hot, okay? So pretend you are walking along the path. So everybody go ahead and close your eyes and pretend that you're walking along that path, okay? It might be kind of smelly because of the camels, right? Okay, think about that. There might be, hear some noises, because you have Sarah and Abraham and Lot and maybe some other people from their family that were walking with them. So think about that, okay? But also think about how God was walking alongside with them, right? Can you think about that? So just like Abraham and Sarah were on their long journey and God was walking beside them, every day when we are on our journey in life, when we're going places or even when we're at home, God is walking alongside with us too. Okay. All right. Let's have a repeat after me prayer. Okay. Dear God.
Dear God.
I am so happy.
I'm so happy.
You are beside me.
You are beside me.
On my path.
On my path.
I can have faith.
I can have faith.
That you will keep your promises.
That
You will keep your promises.
And always be there.
And always be there.
Amen.
Amen.
If you have a brother or sister, you could play a game with that compass rose and see where the car is going.
That's right. Good thinking. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.